What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Baseball Planet channel. Hopefully, you're coming from an American League video. If not, you'll make sure to check that out. And also, if you're not, welcome to our National League video. We'll be talking about the Willson Contreras signing, some Mitch Haniger signing, Jose Quintana signing, Talon Walker, Jameson Taillon, Cody Bellinger, and a trade between the Mets and the Rays. Start off with the Willson Contreras signing. The St. Louis Cardinals got their catcher. Division rivals goes from the Cubs to the Cardinals. If I'm a Cubs fan, I'm pissed right now, but I'm not a Cubs fan, so I'm not pissed. Great deal for Contreras, great deal for the Cardinals. They get their Hall of Fame replacement. No, I'm sorry. They replaced their Hall of Famer Yadier Molina with a guy who, is an all-star catcher. Willson Contreras to the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, he got a little less than what I expected him to get, honestly. But I think it's fair value for both him and the Cardinals. I think that should be what he got. He's not the best defender, so long term he's probably a DH, but the next couple of years he'll probably be catching for the Cardinals. He's got a good bat, one of the better bats at catcher. Usually the catcher position, you're either really good at defense and you're bad offensively, or you're really good offensively and you're terrible defensively. So Contreras, not a great defender, but good bat. Cardinals, they needed a catcher. They were in on Sean Murphy, who's the big ticket item this offseason as far as trade pieces go. Seems like the A's are asking for a big haul for him, and the Cardinals obviously weren't willing to give that to the A's. They favored the Contreras deal over trading for Murphy. Murphy, obviously the better catcher player, but Contreras didn't cost prospects. And at the end of the day, the Cardinals, they do have a really good system, but I'm sure they'd rather keep those top prospects that they have. But yeah, this deal makes sense. I predicted that he was going to go to the Cardinals in my off-season plan for them. The fit made sense, and I like the move for both sides, even though the Cubs fans probably aren't going to like it as much, seeing their beloved former catcher in their rival uniform for the next 5 years.
Personally, if I was the Cardinals, I would have traded for elite catcher James McCann. I kid, of course. I think that's a pretty good pickup for St. Louis. I mean, you go from Yadier Molina, who should be a Hall of Famer for what, 20 years, over 20 years, and you go from him right into Willson Contreras. So good catching pedigree there. Like Mike said, he's probably going to be a DH in the next few years. Not the greatest fielder, but he does have a really good arm. So he's going to probably throw some people out there. Good contract, 17 and a half for what, 5 years? Yeah, good deal for both sides. Tito's barking right now. Please ignore that. So all in all, though, I think that it deepens their lineup still. I think obviously they should be in on Dansby Swanson, like we've heard. I think that would really improve their lineup even further. So all in all, they go from like we said, they go from Yachty to Willson Contreras. It doesn't really get much better than that. So you really can't complain about their catching situation. And we all kind of saw it coming, even though it's a tough pill to swallow for Cubs fans.
Yeah, I mean, like AD was saying about James McCann. Jokes aside, the Cardinals were interested in trading for James McCann. Another guy I could see in is like one of those shortstops go to the Cardinals. I think Dansby Swanson more than any of the other ones. Jump into the next player, Mitch Haniger to the San Francisco Giants, 3 years, 43.5 mil. I really like this contract for San Fran and Mitch Haniger. Overall, I thought they were going to be pairing him with Judge as of late Tuesday night, because the rumors were on John Heyman, Arson Judge, heading to the San Francisco Giants. But he then said he jumped the gun. He obviously did jump the gun, as, like we mentioned in our last video, Judge is now in the Yankees. We're back with the Yankees. And I really like this move. I mean, if you get Judge too, it's a great outfield that they have. If you don't, still a great outfielder that you just got. So Mitch Haniger to the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big fan of this move. They needed to add to that outfield. They wanted to add two outfielders, as Bob said, Haniger and Judge. They didn't end up getting Judge, but that was before they signed Haniger before they knew what Judge's decision was. So they obviously wanted both. Haniger, very good player, big offensive guy, has been a real threat in that underrated threat in that Seattle lineup for a few years now. I know there was a decent chunk of teams interested in him. I know the Red Sox before they got Yoshida were interested in him. Texas had interest in him, as they need a corner outfielder as well. But I think it's fair value for what they gave him. They're probably still going to go after another outfielder. If I had to guess, I think they're going to be pretty aggressive on Brandon Nimmo right now. Now that they missed out on Judge, they'll probably go after Correa as well, maybe Xander Bogaerts. But I think they're not done yet, and they're still going to add some big pieces to that team because there's still definitely some holes on that Giants team, and the NL West is not a fun division at the top with the Padres and Dodgers. They're going to be competing there this year. So if the Giants want to compete with those two teams, they still have a lot to add, whether that's bring in Nimmo or Correa or bring back Rodon. They have a lot of moves that they have to make still.
It's a good pickup. Yeah, I agree with Mike. Really good pickup for San Francisco. He's Mitch Haniger, always under the radar guy. Big power numbers a few years back. Injuries have been his main problem, but all in all, in the years where Seattle was pretty tough to watch when they weren't good, he was kind of the glue that held them together at that time in their lineup. One of the few watchable parts about that. I was happy to see him get a chance to go in the playoffs with them. But really good pickup for San Francisco. They needed to add to that lineup. Obviously, they missed out on Judge, but adding Haniger is a good start. Like Mike said, I can definitely see them being pretty heavily in the Brandon Nimmo pursuit. I can see them overpaying for him as well. Correa is definitely a possibility, and I think that we may be seeing a Giants versus Yankees battle part 2 for Carlos Rodon, even though I definitely think the Yankees are probably more willing to pay his price than the Giants are.
Haven't said yet this video, so I'm going to say it for my first time. Great points by these guys right there about Mitch Haniger. Overall, I do really like the signing. I really do like the fit. I do see a guy like Nimmo or a different outfielder go over to the Giants to kind of complete that outfield. Right now, it's looking like Haniger and Jock. And then you throw another guy in the mix, they could have one of the best outfields in the game. Next up, Jose Quintana to the New York Mets for 2 years, $26 million. Overall, I really like this contract. No bias at all. But at the same time, I really like this contract because, the Mets are still in on, guys like Bassett, Senga, and some other like mid-tier guys. And the starting pitcher market is flying right now. You get Quintana, you can put him at the 3 or the 4. And the Mets rotation starting to fill up a little bit. You came in with 3 spots to fill with Bassett, Walker, and DeGrom all hitting the open market. You fill in Verlander for DeGrom. You fill in Quintana for probably Walker, and now you're looking for that Bassett replacement, if not getting Bassett back. But I really like this contract, $13 million per year. And we'll talk about Taijuan Walker next, and I think this contract compared to his is a lot better. But overall, I really like the signing and the fit.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jose Quintana. I'd call myself a Jose Quintana truther. But he's a really solid guy. Back when Pittsburgh signed him last year, I told one of my friends who's a Pirates fan, like, watch out, this guy, he's gonna have a good year for you guys.
Bam, Shout out Ryan Poos.
I told him he's gonna have a good year. Had a good year. Got traded to the Cardinals. Got even better. But I really like this deal for the Mets just because we saw where the pitching market is at. We'll talk about it in a little bit with Taijuan Walker and Jameson Taillon. But obviously he's a little older than those guys, so he's not going to get as long of a deal. But I think it's fair value for what he did last year, what he's done in his career. I mean, this is a guy who, back when he was with the White Sox, he was considered a top of the rotation arm. He got traded for back a few years ago. He got traded for Eloy Jimenez and Dylan Cease in a package that sent him to the Cubs. So obviously, he's been highly regarded for many years now. I think the Mets still aren't done with their rotation. I think they still need one more guy. probably Kodai Senga or Chris Bassett kind of guy for that 3 spot, and then you have Jose Quintana at the 4 and Carlos Carrasco at the 5. Depending, they might trade Carrasco if they do end up getting Bassett or Senga, and have David Peterson or Tyler McGill back there. But I really like this move for the Mets. I think he's going to be a solid veteran pitcher for the back end of their rotation the next 2 years.
Yeah, it's hard to complain about the move. 2 years, $26 million, $13 million per year for a guy who had the best season of his career last year, I believe, ERA wise. When you see what a lot of these other guys who are number 4s again, like Walker and Tyone with $18 million a year and 17, it's hard to complain about someone getting less years at $4 or $5 million less than those guys, especially with the extremely inflated pitching market at the moment. Like Mike said, I definitely see them adding one more starter. You can never have too many starting pitchers. Definitely think Bassett will either be back or Kodai Senga will fill that number 3 role. And I think we can definitely see Cookie Carrasco getting moved to give David Peterson a shot at that 5 spot. Did everything that was asked of him last year. Another underrated thing that I think Quintana brings is that he's a lefty pitcher, and the Mets haven't had a really good lefty starter in a long time. Obviously, Peterson had some really good starts last year, but Quintana's the first guy in an everyday role since I believe Steven Matz to fill a spot like that. So it's good for both sides. Doesn't take the Mets out of a Kodai Senga sweepstakes or the Chris Bassett free agency. So really good deal for both sides there.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the deal. I really like the fit for both sides. And now we move into the other guys in the pitching market. Taijuan Walker to the Phillies, 4 years, $72 million. Great deal for Walker. I think this is an awful contract for the Phillies. I think I'm a big fan of Taijuan Walker. He did what he had to do with the Mets. He came in big spots and got the job done while guys were hurt. Stepped up, was an all-star his first year in New York. But overall, I love this contract for him because he's getting the bag. But at the same time, it's like for a guy who's kind of known to be pretty bad in the second half of seasons. I don't know how I feel about giving him this much money over that span of years. I think his contract with the Mets was 2 years, $20 million when he signed with them. Now it's 4 years, $72 million with the Phillies. Like I said, I love the fit for Walker and love that he's getting a lot of money. But I don't know how I feel about it for the Phillies.
I really don't like this move for the Phillies. It's 4 years for Taijuan Walker is a lot. It does not make sense to me at all, especially the money they gave him. He's a solid pitcher. He's not bad in any facet, but he's not worth that much money. And if you're looking at the pitching market, it just doesn't make sense to me how he got that kind of deal. And obviously, he didn't have the qualifying offer attached, so that probably drove it up a little bit. When you don't have the qualifying offer attached to you, you're going to have a lot more teams interested because you're not going to lose a draft pick. So compared to like a guy like a Chris Bassett, who you're going to lose a draft pick if you sign him. But I really don't get this. He got lit up by the Phillies a few times last year and past couple of years. That's a hitter-friendly ballpark. Probably not going to treat him well. I don't see him as a 4. He's fine. I don't see him being much more than that. That's what the Phillies need. But at the end of the day, do you want to pay a 4 starter $72 million? It seems like a lot to me, and I just don't. I wouldn't want my team personally to give a 4 starter $72 million over 4 years because that's just not smart management of your money. But the Phillies, they've spent pretty crazily. They spent $300 million on Trey Turner the other day. They got Matt Strom for their bullpen. Spent, I believe it was $15 million. So they're adding still. They're going to be a better team next year, even though they went to the World Series last year. I think they'll be at least a better regular season team next year. But I don't know. I don't like this deal for them personally.
Yeah, it's a lot of money to give to a guy like Walker, number 4. Shows some flashes of brilliance, but also has his rough start here or there. I think he's a very solid number 4. I don't think he deserves a lot of the hate he gets for the second half. I don't think he was as bad as people make him out to be. But $18 million a year over 4 years is a lot to give to a number four starter. I do respect the Phillies for looking at their World Series team and saying that we want to improve, hopefully win a division and get back there. And they certainly done that with Walker being at the back end of their rotation. That's a really good number four to have. But it's a lot of money to deal out for a guy like that. I'm sure Chris Bassett's looking at that contract with dollar signs in his eyes as his market just took a nice little turn for the in a positive direction. That's it's a long contract to give to a guy, especially watching Walker over the last few years. He does have some back problems once in a while, as we see a lot. Not always the healthiest pitcher in the world, even though he's been fairly durable the last 2 years. But it's a tough pill to swallow, giving him that much. But I do respect Philadelphia for trying to improve an already NL championship caliber team that they had last year.
Yeah, I mean, like these guys were talking about, as they were saying how Walker, is a good four pitcher. It made me think, remember how in, 2021, when Walker first came to the Mets, he was basically their two. He was basically their two starter. And he was either their two or three, depending how Carrasco and him lined up in the rotation. But when everybody was healthy, it was basically DeGrom, him, Carrasco. He went from a two to basically a five in the span of a season, because now the Mets, once everybody was healthy, when DeGrom came back, he went to the five. And it's like now his value, the money that he got where he was a five on a team. I mean, the rotation that the Mets had was fantastic this year, but I still think it's way too much money for him. Another guy that's probably making a lot of money, Jameson Taillon. Jameson Taillon to the Chicago Cubs, 4 years, $68 million. This was a guy that was on the radar of the Mets. I know the Mets kind of wanted to close out a deal with him, I think, like over the weekend, but that obviously did not happen. The Phillies were in on him. I honestly thought the Phillies were the best fit for him before they signed Walker. And yeah, I mean, another deal where it's like I don't know how I feel about this contract, but at the same time, the way the starting pitcher market is, and then like the demand that they have for it, these guys are going to get this amount of money that they want because all these teams are very very picky and very jumping all over the starters when they can.
Yeah, I have the exact same opinion on this contract that I do with the Walker contract. I view them as very similar pitchers. They're on the same tier for me. Pretty interchangeable in my opinion. I like the fit for the Cubs. I think they needed another starter. They got that guy. Again, wouldn't give him 4 years for that much money. I don't think he's that good. I think he can be solid, really solid, be a 4, maybe a 3. But at the end of the day, I just wouldn't give him that type of contract because similar to Walker, he's had injury issues, and I don't know. You don't know what to expect from those type of guys. But he's a solid pitcher. I think I like the fit for the Cubs, as I said. I think the Cubs have a pretty underrated pitching staff. They could add to the offense a little more. They probably will. We'll talk about Cody Bellinger next, but I think the Cubs still have some moves to make. I just don't know how much I really like this deal as I do with the Walker one as well.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same situation as Walker. Number four starter getting a lot of money. He was a number four on the Yankees, and they didn't seem too keen on him starting too many playoff games, and there wasn't really much else in that rotation outside of Cortez and Cole, other than Severino, but he's hurt all the time. Maybe he gets a greater opportunity to show what he has because he's probably, maybe a number two for Chicago. Weak rotation. Like Mike said, I like the fit for them. It's just a lot of money to deal out for a guy who has some injury problems and isn't exactly a top-notch, not even a number 3 in the league.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite go-to, great points by these guys. Another Cubs sign we're going to be talking about, like Michael was saying, Cody Bellinger. First position player we've talked about in a while here. Naturally he's been filled with a bunch of starting pitcher signings. But Cody Bellinger to the Cubs, 1 year, $17.5 million. Another contract that I absolutely despise. One because Cody Bellinger is a former MVP, former top player in the league, but at the same time he's not the same Cody Bellinger anymore. He hasn't shown he was. He's been since I don't know where he went since his MVP year, but 1 year, 17.5 million. I mean, I think this is a good move for the Cubs and good move for Bellinger, kind of like a 1 year prove it deal. But I'll give this one to Mike because there's nobody else to give it to right now.
I guess it'll be a two-man show the rest of the way unless Ant finds his way back here. But yeah, as you probably just said, Bellinger hasn't been the same player that he was back a few years ago with the Dodgers. The Cubs are hoping they can find that again. He's really struggled these past few years. It's kind of sad to see because when Cody Bellinger was at the top of his game, he was fun to watch, hitting bombs left and right. I will say I won't call any 1 year deal a bad deal because at the end of the day, if he doesn't work out, you're off the contract at the end of the year and it's back. But at the end of the year, you're out of the deal 1 year. If it doesn't work out, move on. Both parties move on, and hopefully the Cubs get a better offensive player out of Cody Bellinger than the Dodgers have the past few years, and maybe if it works out, he could be a long-term solution for them. But the outfield looks pretty solid right now with Ian Happ and left, Bellinger in center, and Seiya Suzuki in right. Cubs, I still think they have some bat stats, maybe probably a first baseman and one of the shortstops. I think Swanson's probably the most likely at this point. But Cubs definitely got some moves still to make, and I like the fit with Bellinger.
Sorry about that, guys. I have no idea what happened. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Mike. I like the fit with Bellinger. Low risk, high reward contract. Former MVP. He is one of the most annoying players in the league. He stands up there, as Keith Hernandez says, like a telephone pole, and he just seems to be all arms, and he doesn't use his lower half of his body at all. But I do think that with where in LA he really wasn't. There was so many superstars on that team. Maybe in Chicago, he can get a chance to regain that for him. Like Mike said, I definitely think that they have a potential to sign one of the top shortstops, like Dansby Swanson, and I think we've heard some rumors. I can see them going out there and signing another reclamation project and bringing in maybe Dom Smith or something like that.
Yeah. So, overall, I think Bellinger going to the Cubs, like AD was saying, kind of gives him more of a chance to give some more production in the lineup. Meanwhile, because the guy used to bat at the top of the lineup. Now he was batting, 7 through 9, and it's really sad to see because the guy was honestly really incredible to watch, really fun to watch. Unless he was playing, my team, but he's a guy. I bought his jersey. I really like watching him play. Just thinks because I think ever since him and Jock had that forearm shiver celebration back in the 2020 bubble. For the playoffs, I don't think he's been the same player since because, he dislocated his shoulder, and ever since then, he just does not look like the same player. Grown out the hair, grown out the facial hair, kind of looks like a mess. Listen, no hate, but at the same time, I think, overall, when he had that going on and not being able to really hit anymore, it's really upsetting to watch. That's basically it for the signings, but now we want to talk about a trade that happened. Mike was saying in a group chat today, why is there no trades happening? I would think with the winter meetings, trades would be happening. No joke, maybe 2 to 5 minutes later, Brooks Raley breaking news to the New York Mets. Left-hand pitcher reliever, Brooks Raley to the New York Mets. Left-hand pitching prospect, Keyshawn Askew to the Tampa Bay Rays. As a Mets fan, I really liked Askew, and I really liked the prospect pool that the Mets had. But I think Askew would be really good, especially with the Tampa Bay Rays cheating lab that they have over there. And at the same time, I do really like this move for the Mets because they get Brooks Raley. And this Mets team's a win-now baseball team. They're trying to win a championship now. next year and the year after. They're not worrying about 4 to 5 years down the road right now, but they're worrying about winning now. So it's like they're making win now moves, and this is obviously showing I really like this move for both sides, but I really like the move for the Mets.
Yeah, I agree there. Brooks Raley is one of the better left-handed relievers in baseball right now. Uh, Um, the Rays really made him into a really solid pitcher. Um, as Bob said, Keyshawn Askews, the piece going back to the Rays. He's a solid prospect, showed real promise. I think it's tough to trade him, but at the end of the day, as Bubba said, we're trying to compete right now. Askew, you probably hope he becomes what Brooks Raley is right now, in the future, but we don't really have as the Mets don't really have time to wait for that. They got to win now. They have a bit of an older team, so they got to add more vets to that team. They added Brooks Raley. They had a hole. Well, still have holes in that bullpen. Brooks Raley fills one of them, uh, replacing Joely Rodriguez, one of my favorite players, as the lefty reliever in that pen. So uh, hopefully he repeats what he did in Tampa last year with the Mets. I think it's a good trade for both sides. I think both sides are getting fair value. Raley's under control for 2 more years, and Askew, he probably won't be up for another couple of years. I think he made it to high A this year, so maybe he'll start in Double A next year. We'll see, but I think he'll be up in a year or two. Either way, I like the trade for both sides.
Yeah, Askew is a good prospect, but like I said, the Mets need to win now. They desperately need another lefty reliever. I know Mike's gonna hate me for this. Joely Rodriguez did not cut it last year. He was way too inconsistent. He showed flashes of being a top end reliever, and he showed flashes of being one of the worst relievers I've ever seen. Uh, but now you go from having no lefty in that bullpen. They had pretty much nobody in the bullpen other than Diaz and Drew Smith. They have one of the better lefty relievers in the game. I'm sure Askew will turn out to be a star because the Rays could pretty much take a homeless person off the street and turn him into a great pitcher. But at the end of the day, good deal for both sides. Like we said, they really needed that reliever and relievers in general. I'm sure they'll turn their attention to maybe bringing back Adam Ottavino after that. Maybe talking to someone like Andrew Chafin, and then hopefully, along with Sanger or Bassett, bringing back Brandon Nimmo.
Yeah, I mean, I really like this trade overall. I think Askew could be very good, but at the same time, I think he's going to be a reliever. I don't think they're really going to start him. Because I think it's too dangerous. Because the way he pitches, you guys probably haven't seen it, but I'll likely put some clips in here on the screen so you guys can watch if I remember. Hopefully, I remember. But the way he throws, he has such a kind of weird movement with his arm that I mean, I hope he can stay healthy, but at the same time, he really I don't think he will last if he started games throughout a whole season. But Brooks really great move for the Mets. Actually, I want to talk about if you guys watched the last episode, you saw my absolute brain fart about the Rule 5 draft, but now I'm correct. So, um, Rule 5 draft happened tonight. If you're watching this, probably yesterday it happened. Thad Ward, a highly touted Rule 5 prospect, went from the Red Sox to the Nationals, the first overall pick. There's actually a decent amount of guys taken off the board. Shout out to the Baseball Planet's good friend and our first and only interview so far, Chris Clark, who went from the Cubs to the Mariners in the Rule 5. Best of luck to Chris. And there's really nothing much to talk about here. I don't know if these guys really have anything to say, but if not, we'll move on to the next topic. We all good? We all good? Next topic, probably the last topic. The first ever MLB draft lottery happened last night, and the Pirates ended up with the first pick. I kind of like the draft lottery because it kind of makes teams not really tank anymore. And I really don't know if there's that much tanking in baseball, but at the same time, it kind of um, it's just a tough process for me because at the same time, you look at teams like NHL, NBA, who use the draft lottery, and it's teams that actually try to tank to get the higher picks. So they use the lottery for that. But at the same time, with baseball, you look at the Oakland A's. What the Oakland A's get, like sixth pick? Oakland A's were the worst team in baseball, and they got the sixth pick. Is that fair? I don't think that's fair at all. But honestly, the implementation of the lottery, I don't know if I fully understand it yet for the MLB because I'm just so used to the common worst team gets a basically the best player to help build up their farm system for years to come. But I mean, you guys could give your thoughts because I really don't have that much.
I don't think it makes a lot of sense for baseball just because the MLB draft is so different than other sports where it's really just a crapshoot of guys. I mean, scouting has gotten better over the years, so there's less busts that are drafted in the first round and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's still a crapshoot compared to other sports where usually the number one pick, not 8 or 9 times out of 10, ends up being a star or good player. But it just doesn't make sense for me. It's not going to really have any major effect on any of these teams just because it just doesn't make sense to me, to be honest. I feel like it's just to get people to watch it, make some money off that.
Yeah, I agree. I like that it tries to prevent tanking, like we see in the NBA and NHL. But it's also incredibly frustrating when a team gets a top pick when they don't need it. I know back-to-back years the Rangers got us. I know Bubba's a Rangers fan. I'm an Islander fan. Rangers missed the playoffs. They were one of the worst teams. They were middle of the road, but they got the second overall pick one year. They got the first pick one year, and we kind of saw that. And we saw the Minnesota Twins make a huge jump in the draft lottery this year. Oakland A's took a few hits. I do like that it hopefully promotes these owners from that own teams that decide just not to spend money at all. Hopefully, they start spending some money, try to improve the team like the Pirates. But all in all, it's like Mike said, it's tough to implement in the MLB, especially when it's not when you see the NHL, NBA, NFL. Those a lot of the top picks they make immediate impacts on their team. They go right into the lineup. When it comes to baseball, and all those guys, even the top picks, generally 3 years away from the show at minimum. Very few times you see a guy come up within the first 2 years they drafted. So it's kind of tough to implement it in the MLB compared to other sports.
Yeah, like AD was saying, I was going to bring it up before he did, but great minds think alike, and that's why we're all working together right now because we all have great minds and we all think alike. But like he was saying, it's different from NFL, NHL, NBA. It's all different than MLB because you look at these other teams, especially the NFL and NBA. You draft a guy with the first overall pick, 99.9% of the chance he's starting on week one or opening night for your team. MLB, if a guy gets drafted out of college, what is it? Maybe, 2 years minimum he's in the show. Except if your name is Garrett Crochet. I know Mike's a big fan of Garrett Crochet, but unless you're Garrett Crochet, you're not seeing the show for maybe 2 to 3 years. So you're drafting guys for your future. This, other drafts, you're drafting guys for your future, but you're also drafting guys for that season coming up. So honestly, I still don't know how I feel about it. I think it's kind of sad how the A's got the sixth pick when Woody had the worst season and really have nothing to look forward to right now. I mean, I don't know if this is messed up to say, but also if you look at the A's prospect pool, you really look at the prospect pool, you're like, there's really no prospect. I don't think, unless I'm having a total brain fart, right? Yeah, this guy's going to be fun when he comes up. There's really nobody look forward to. But that's what's sad. It's like these guys have nobody right now. They have really nobody in their prospect in their farm system, and there's really nobody like, oh, this guy's gonna come up soon and be a superstar for us. That's what's sad. I think they need to sell the team. I think they need to relocate. But I'm not going to go into another A's rant like we did with the Angels the other day. So if we're all good with all of points that we're going to make, we're going to wrap this one up.
One thing to add. Breaking news. Hashtag insider. The Braves just acquired Joe Jimenez. The Braves.
This is unbelievable. We're on the air right now. We were hoping this would happen. AD insider. Look, it's another Atlanta Braves press release. Joe Jimenez from the Detroit Tigers and cash considerations also in exchange for outfielder Justin Henry Malloy and left-handed pitcher Jake Jake Higginbotham. I apologize if I botched that. I also apologize for the little giggle.
Those are two fantastic last names that the Tigers acquired.
Those are fantastic names, and hopefully, they become some good players. I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you haven't watched the American League video, go check it out. If you aren't subscribed, subscribe. If you haven't bought a piece of our merch, go buy a piece of our merch. And like, comment, subscribe. If you aren't following our Instagram account, the Baseball Planet, go follow it. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. See you next time.